Alright, just a quick video. I didn't get to really explain a few things in the other video I posted. It was just kind of like the install. So I guess I'll start off with this. I did opt for a different turbo, still a journal bearing, but it was slightly, I guess a slightly smaller outlet, but it's larger inlet, I guess you could say. It's going to boost or spool earlier. So instead of hitting at like 3,500 RPMs, it should hit at like 2,500 RPMs, maybe earlier. So that I bought differently, but let me explain a few things about what you need basically to get this kit to work. So you didn't need to do what I did with this with the intake piping. This is something I just decided to do on my own, just because I liked routing it to the, I guess you could say, to the other side of the car. When a lot of the times what the kit does is it basically goes directly down, and since I did go with the slim fans anyways, I probably should have did that, but I kind of like how it goes this way. It's a lot easier to take apart. I believe in my case, probably too many couplers, too much piping, whatever it might be, but I don't think it's going to lag any much differently. I already have oil cooler and catch can. Those are things that you should get if you don't have them, but I already had them on my kit. I basically went with the wastegate and the blow-off valve that come with it. I'm going to explain something about the wastegate in just a moment. Let's see if there was anything else I could show you on top. Another thing you'll need to get it to work, I haven't done it yet, but that's on the list. Aftermarket MAF sensor, and I found one that's like a MAF extender, like a voltage extender that extends it 20% or so. That I think it's NISDA Performance or whatever that sells it. They're not like a huge company, but I'm gonna go with them. They tuned their 350Z on the same type of turbo kit, and they made good results. I'm gonna be doing just 8 psi based on wastegate pressure. Now I still got to kind of get some things to fit in the right locations and everything, but I might even opt for a different intercooler because it comes with a small one. But that should be enough for what my goals are, because I'm not looking for like a lot of power. I'm just looking to have fun, I guess you should say. But it doesn't hang too low, so that's a good thing. That's what I was kind of opting for. The one thing I do worry about is the piping with the wheels. Like for example on this side, it is kind of close. I don't want the piping to get hit by the wheels, but I might be able to finagle some things or cut some and shorten it a little bit. Originally I was trying to do something, but you might have seen in like my other video that the oil line, the turbo oil return line, I ended up fabbing up something for that, so I guess I'll get to that first. So oil return line, I just use rubber hose instead of the little return line that they come with, because I don't think it was going to work out. Wasn't long enough, and just wasn't going to work out for what I was trying to do. So I have it with the oil return on the turbo. I have two 90s, so a 90 out of it, 90 from there, the other 90. So it basically just makes like a right angle type thing. Then directly down, then we swoop, and we're gonna swoop over here, and it goes right into the return hose for the oil cooler. So instead of, I tried to run it to the oil cooler itself, wasn't working out, just because it was just too high up, so it wasn't gonna really drain well. But with this, it should still drain well. I'm gonna be able to like maybe zip tie a few things or whatever, just so it has a little bit closer, I guess you could say, of an angle that goes just straight down, no ups, if that makes sense. Then the wastegate. So right now wastegate's just gonna be open dump. I don't know if I probably didn't say it in the other video, but basically the thread in this part of the wastegate wasn't completed at the very beginning, so it would not get a bolt in, but I was able to get the bolt in tight enough with the actual It's like this little thing that goes in for the spring and everything, and actually it's really tight. It's not actually leaking right now, or well, at least that's what I think. I'm not 100%, but I've got everything really tightened down. I'm going to explain some of the exhaust section right now, which I didn't do really, I think, too much in the videos, maybe a little bit, but not much. The oil feed, I might have spoke about it a little bit. That actually worked out pretty well. So it's like a little three-way, and you go up to the top of the turbo and feed it right in. I fed it right over the intake piping that I have, or intercooler piping, I guess you could say. Intake to intercooler. All right, now let's move. Basically, let's see, I don't know if you can see it, but basically right there I have a block off that I basically kept. So instead of doing the recirculate type thing from the for when the wastegate goes up and just lets the additional exhaust pressure into the exhaust, instead of doing that, I just left them basically open for right now, just because the part it came with didn't really fit really well. So this is perfectly fine. It'll just basically, the wastegate will open when it hits the 8 psi mark, and then it'll just let out the additional exhaust pressure instead of reflowing it into the exhaust. And the other thing I have to work on is getting a vacuum line from the side up to the where I have the boost gauge. Let's see if I could show this. So we started off, when we installed the exhaust, we started off in this area, and I think I said it in the video, you start off with the U section first. So this section you would want to bolt in first, and then you can kind of get this one going right here, this tubing that goes to the turbo itself, the wastegate and the turbo. So you would start off kind of with that, just get the V-band in there and leave it loose. And then you would get this section and the bolts or nuts and everything kind of lined up on the other side. You might have to twist and bend or beat a little bit out of it, just because it might be a little tight from when you try to get it locked in over here. But you have to finagle those and move them a little bit here and there, and to get the V-bands on and everything, and it's kind of a bitch. It's actually the part that actually took me the longest and was the most annoying. What I did is I moved the slave cylinder out the way, so I removed those two bolts and just kind of like chucked it out the way on this side, and that gave me some clearance. And then I also got some clearance by removing the right there, the steering shaft. I think you're showing it kind of underneath the car, so it's not really easy, but I basically took that off, got that out the way. And then when you got everything going, right now I don't have an idea of how I'm gonna do the rear O2s, because obviously you can see this is like not gonna work out. But I'm going to try to figure out where I can do bungs for the rear O2s eventually, if I need them, if I can't delete them, because I've done that before in prior other cars. And then you just run this section of exhaust back to your catback, so you get a nice little kind of like a S-bend type thing going on, and then it goes back to your original catback or whatever you got going on. I got a single exhaust, so it goes out to a largely sized single exhaust. Alright, that's everything for down here, I believe. So we talked about the oil return, the different turbo, ran some interesting bends in the intercooler piping and such. Not any kinks that would be too much of an issue. Had a smaller, like I said, inlet. So this had I had to get a different sizing tubing. And this side, I'm not really too worried about rubbing against the wheel itself too much, maybe, but I don't know. Might have to just get some spacers and such, because I do have the ankle kit and everything, and I do want to space out the wheels, but we'll see when I get the other wheels on the car. And then, let's see, the other thing was the blow-off valve. So basically just had it teed off into two vacuum lines, one that goes to the intake manifold, and the other one goes into the gauge, which is here on the inside. And all the other things you really need to do additional would be basically wiring up your gauges, so your AFR and your boost gauge. And to be honest, that's pretty much it. Now, that's it for the turbo kit. Getting the actual tune and everything done that you need for the vehicle, that's going to be separate, and I might do another video on that as well. just because I want to show the progress. But basically what's going to go on with this is right when I get ready to tune, I have my fuel pump assembly that's ready to go in. So all I got to do is just take out the old one and put in the new one, because I already have like a whole assembly with the pump inside of it and everything. Just throw in, so that makes it easier because I just took it out of that car. And so that'll take like 10 minutes. And then the injectors, which I already have and are ready to go in, probably take me like an hour or so to get basically the throttle body I might get off, just to get out of the way. If not, remove the piping from here, remove the top portion of the intake manifold, remove the middle portion or bottom portion, whatever you call it, of the intake manifold, get those out. Then the fuel rails come out with like a couple bolts. So that's something that's probably going to take me maybe an hour, maybe a little longer, depending on how fast I want to go and everything. But yeah, so she runs, and eventually I do want to figure out what I can do about this, since the turbo is kind of like right against the radiator and everything. I do want to eventually change out the radiator, but it'll be fine, and it spins. So that's one thing that I always like to do, is make sure it spins. Yeah, she spins. Okay. I started it the other day and no exhaust leaks, no I had a little bit of oil leak at the oil drain, but that's because I was running it to the oil cooler still. So once I figured it out, it was because it was building up, the oil was going back up to the turbo. I quickly, I didn't keep the car running for long each time, so turn off the car, refigured out that, and now it's not, before it was hanging too low and it was gonna like probably getting a hit against the ground or whatever. Now it's actually sitting perfectly fine. So that's really everything on the turbo kit, and it was actually not too bad, but I've had to just like fuck with a couple things and make sure that some things work. The oil cooler's gonna go back right in back of the intercooler, right in between the intercooler and the crash bar. Zip tie everything, whatever, get everything nice and tight. The other thing I kind of had to, I guess, mess with, I didn't really talk about this, is I kind of somewhat reorientated the upper radiator hose, and had to make like when I did this, I kind of had to make like a downward, so it would go underneath the hose and everything, because when it was above the hose, it was obviously the blow off valves was like way too high. What I want to do is kind of either cut out a little section so I can move this further back this way, or figure out something to do with the radiator hose so I can, because basically it hits right against there, but I'm able to, for example, I move that and now it doesn't hit against it, but with a little vibration, I'm sure it wouldn't be hard for that to fall. But that's just one of my little very tiny little things to mess with and such, and make sure everything's not rubbing against anything or anything like that. But it's been good so far, and car runs good. So hopefully that was a good explanation for everything. If you got any questions, just let me know. I know the other one was kind of more of like a rush video. This one was kind of more of a detailed ish without having any parts off. So catch you guys in the next one. Bye.